Hello and welcome back to the Avoid the Tyrewall podcast. Today I'm joined by special guest Hugo Schwarze. Hugo, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Hugo, I'm 18 years old and from Germany. I race in the GB3 Championship and this is my third year in motorsport.
So, what inspired you to pursue a career in racing and how did your journey lead you into the GB3 Championship?
Yeah, so I was always a big fan of motorsport, of cars in general. And a couple of years ago I got a disease in my knees from doing a bit too much sport, and that's when my dad bought me a sim because I couldn't really do anything else. And yeah, I was on it day and night obviously because I couldn't really do anything else. Yeah. And yeah, then I got a test in a kart and it went really well, so we decided to do a season in karts. Yeah. And yeah, after that in karts I was picked up by Genetta Juniors and I was vice champion in that, and now I'm here in the GB3 Championship.
Did you find the transition from like esports with the sim to like karts to Genetta Junior quite significant?
Yeah, I think it was always quite big jumps that I did. Obviously I only started racing or karting when I was 15, so by the time, other guys I was racing against, they were already quite experienced. So yeah, I think the steps that I've done, they've always been quite big but manageable, and I think I've done quite well.
How have you found driving the high downforce cars in GB3 compared to that of Genetta Juniors?
Yeah, so I've definitely had to adapt a lot from going from Genetta Juniors with 100 horsepower, no downforce and no slicks, to going to high downforce, slicks, 250 horsepower. It's been a big change. And the team and I have been working quite hard in the off season and preparing for the season. And I think looking at the results from the start of the year now, you can see how well I've done adapting to the car. It's taken a while obviously, but I'm here now and doing well, yeah.
Do you think like your confidence growing probably with the car has helped like to get the better results?
Definitely, yeah. It's all about drive time.
Yeah.
And obviously at the start of the season my drive time wasn't there quite, but now it is, so yeah.
What has been your most memorable moment in your career so far?
That's a good question. I think last year my first win in Genetta Juniors was quite special, because I had quite a lot of podiums up until then, and then finally to get that win was pretty special.
Like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
How do you prepare mentally and physically for race weekends, given how intense competition is in GB3?
Yeah, so I like to have a structured plan before I head off to England for the race weekends or wherever I'm racing, just so I can finish everything that I have to do and be well prepared for it. And I think the mental side of it, you just have to be confident in your own abilities, and that's it really.
Do you like listen to music or anything before a race?
It depends. Sometimes I do, yeah, but I like to talk to people before the race just to get my mind off of things, and talk strategy and stuff like that.
What song would be your go-to though? What
song would I listen to? That's a very good question. I think my pre-race songs include a lot of like Yeet. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
Just to get me hyped up, really. Yeah.
Fair enough. Obviously you've built your social following quite significantly this year, so do you think this has helped you progress your career in terms of sponsorship, etc.?
Definitely, yeah. I think it's been a major part of securing sponsorships. Yeah. Obviously a sponsor, you have to give something in return. Yeah. And a lot of sponsors are looking for social media coverage, and yeah, it's helped me quite a lot.
Oh, talking of frustration, how did you deal with the frustration when you lost the podium on the last lap at Silverstone? Did it knock your confidence at all?
I wouldn't say it knocked my confidence, but it was definitely a frustrating moment. Obviously in the situation I had lots of pressure from behind, and I made a mistake, and I've learned from it as well. But obviously in that moment losing the podium in the last lap was quite difficult to manage. Yeah. But yeah, it was just upwards and onwards from there.
Do you think knowing what you know now, if you went back then you'd be able to manage the scenario better?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would. Obviously in that moment it's always difficult to say. It's a high pressure situation and you have to manage it at the best, so going back to it, yeah, definitely.
Hindsight's a great thing.
Definitely, yeah.
Which track has been the best to race on so far this year?
I think I have to say either Spa or Silverstone. Long straights, Spa, low downforce, which obviously helps with overtaking, so that was pretty fun, yeah.
And it's like iconic, isn't it?
Exactly.
Can you walk us through what usually happens on a race weekend in terms of travel, preparation, testing, etc.?
Yeah, so usually testing starts on the Thursday. So I live in Germany right now, so I have to travel on a Wednesday. Arrive here, settle down. Obviously, testing is quite packed always, trying to find the limit of the car and myself, of course. And yeah, that's it really.
Do you think if like you continue pursuing a career, like say in GB3, you'd move to England, or do you think you'd stay in Germany?
It's a good question, and a question I've been thinking about myself. Unfortunately, in Germany, there's not much going on with simulators.
Yeah.
So when I do my simulator training, I actually come to England. So it's lots of traveling. So I might have to move to England in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like iZone you go to?
Exactly. Yeah.
How do you find the balance between aggression and caution during a race, specifically in significant moments?
Yeah, it's basically sprint races that we have. It's 20 minutes, and 25 minutes. So you do have to be quite aggressive to make up some moves. And in GB3, it's quite difficult to get the chance to make a move on someone.
Yeah.
So if you have the move, you just have to go for it, and believe in yourself that it's going to work out, because if you go for a half-hearted move, it's never going to work.
Is that like, do you think that's why they kind of moved away from going to Donington Park, because that's like very thin?
Yeah, the track's very, very narrow and very difficult to overtake at, so it was probably the right decision. And obviously with the DRS next year, I wouldn't see it working.
Fair. What is one thing that people would be surprised to learn about you?
One thing they'd be surprised to learn about me? Probably at the racetrack, I'm always I like to speak to people. I'm very open.
Yeah.
When I'm at home, I like to focus on my work. Probably don't get to go out a lot because I'm focused on my work.
Do you find it like strange when people come up to you and like take photos, or like at first did you find it really odd?
Yeah, I think it is odd moving from karting where there's not much views, to be fair, to moving to Ginetta Juniors where the attention is a bit high, and then obviously to GB3. But yeah, you get used to it, and it's obviously nice to see people supporting you.
Yeah. How did you like first get involved in the Ginetta Junior Championship?
So basically a teammate of mine in karting, his dad actually was looking for opportunities for his son to race in 2023, and then he asked me if I wanted to join, and of course I was up for it. And it went really well, and we decided to do some further test days to see a bit more.
Your teammates both have vast experience in GB3. Do you think this has aided you at all this year?
Yeah, for sure. Jared in his first year, second year this year, and Mackenzie in his third year obviously is a big help. They've got data from the past couple of years, and they're quick in every session, which is obviously good for me. To look at the data and see where I can improve.
Can you talk to us about your experience in Porsche Carrera Cup Asia Talent Pool and Porsche Carrera Cup Junior Shootout GB?
Yeah, so those two shootouts were pretty cool. GB was the first one which I attended. It was I was in the top 12 there, and got to do some meetings and those kind of things. No driving, no fitness assessments, unfortunately. But it's definitely cool to get involved with things like that, just to be prepared for the future, of course. And Asia was a very cool experience, racing in Asia for the first time, and a track of historic Formula 1 track, Malaysia as well. And it was really cool to compete against guys from all over the world.
So you said about Malaysia, like how is it competing like in the extreme heat in Malaysia where it's like 30 odd degrees in December, and compared to like England where it rains?
To be fair, when I was in Malaysia it was either 35 degrees or massive thunderstorm. So somewhat similar to the UK, but it's quite cold. Well, all of the races we've been at, most of them, it's rained except for Silverstone this year. So of course it's a different surrounding, different weather, but I think you get used to it quite quickly.
So I've heard, I don't know how true it is, that the Porsche cars are extremely difficult to drive and just really, really different. What were the main challenges associated with it? And is it true that the cars present a unique challenge?
Yeah, they do present a unique challenge because the engine is at the back, and that makes the front pretty light. So every time you go into the corner, the car is quite understeery. So it requires a different way of braking, a different way of holding the brake into the corner, which I wasn't used to. Obviously coming from Ginetta Juniors, and yeah, it's got 500 horsepower, which is also quite different to a Ginetta Junior. So I had to get used to it, to be honest, but I think I handled it quite well and got up to speed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
DRS was coming in next year.
Yeah.
Personally, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing, yeah.
Right, okay. Do you not think that driver skill is more important than electronic aids?
I agree with you, yeah. Driver skill is obviously more important, but as you've probably seen in some of the races this year, racing is on and off in the dry. It's pretty difficult to overtake. So I think even though DRS might take away some of the skill in passing other drivers, it'll just create some better racing.
With regards to obviously practice and testing and things like that, what sort of time do you get in the car before a race weekend, or in let's say a fortnight?
Yeah.
What sort of actual race time do you get in the car?
So before race, we obviously go to the assembly area. So we get in, I'd say, half an hour before the race starts. Okay. Obviously, timetables change as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it.
And practice-wise, how much practicing do you actually do in the car, and how many laps?
Yeah,
and
it depends on the driver, obviously. In pre-season testing, you can do as much testing as you want.
Okay.
So some drivers do lots of testing, some drivers don't do as much. I actually decided to do GB3 quite later on in the year, or actually at the start of the year, really.
Yeah.
So the time for testing was quite limited.
Okay.
But usually you do as much as you possibly can.
What say do you get with regards to setup of the car?
Yeah, so that also depends on the team. Okay. But in my team, Elite, we usually have a debrief after the race, which is quite important, I think, as a driver, to be able to share your opinion on the car and make some adjustments regarding those. Yeah.
Do you have notes, personal notes for each track?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so after every session, I write down some notes regarding the car, regarding the track, and how the track conditions have changed.
Got you.
Just for the next time I might be here, but it comes in useful.
You've set a car up for a dry lap or a dry track. All of a sudden, the heavens open. Yes, you can change the tyres, and I presume you can alter your wings and things like that. But as a driving experience for a lap, say a quali lap, how do you mentally get yourself into a wet mode from a dry mode?
Yeah, so actually over the last 2 days we had that issue, going out on a dry setup in the rain. But I think it's all about adaptability, sorry. Just getting used to the feeling of the car. Obviously it feels quite different. Yeah. But in the rain, obviously the driver makes probably the biggest difference. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's all about adaptability and seeing what you can do on a different setup.
Yeah, do something like push to pass potentially being introduced like in the future?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, in most of the championships or Formula Championships, if you go up to FIA3, FIA2, in Formula 1, you have DRS. So I think it does make sense. To introduce DRS instead of push to pass, just so you're prepared for the future.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Avoid the Tyrewall podcast, and thank you to Hugo for doing this interview. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.